Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the HamCorp training manual. In this episode, we start taking a look at oil before getting distracted by building an array of 64 electric blast furnaces, operating in parallel with hatch priority rotation. Insert more technical words here. Is that supposed to be in the intro? And that's the last of the 3x3 multis. Cool, everything's done. Now I've sectioned off an area over here. This is going to be for oil processing, which is sort of outlined over here. Oil cracking, desulfurization, byproduct distilling. There's also a little bit more explanation in the resource production area, talking about oil production, heavy and light fuel, naphtha, sulfuric gas, which can be hydrocracked or steam cracked to make a bunch of stuff. I will be making my oil with the pyrolyzed oven. There are two types of oil you can make. There's oil, just straight up oil. This can be made by centrifuging soil sand, which could be made. It's just bulk haunting of sand. But I'm actually gonna go for heavy oil. Heavy oil is made in a pyrolyzed oven with some wood. So I need to kind of hook this up more properly, the wood situation. I have just been hand hauling some wood over to my ore generation area to that pyro, but I really should hook it up to AE2 and have that route everything. Anyway, all of that is gonna go into this area, which needs a bit of construction work. I have a vague idea of what I want to do with this, but I think I'm actually going to place the machines first so that there's actually space for all of them, because I don't really know how much space I'm going to need. My end goal will be to make high octane gasoline. That's right, it's the return of hog. However, this does need an LCR, and I've thought about it some more, and I may as well just make LCRs now, because why not, I guess. Yes, their mechanics are being changed a little bit, but the structure will be the same, and most things generally won't be affected by the change, I think. At least not significantly. So yeah, my goal is to make high octane gasoline. I don't think I'm going to get to that today. There's a lot that goes into it, and I need to do a little bit of math to see exactly what I want to crack and stuff. Also, I can't even burn it right now. Not really. I mean, I can use these single block GregTech combustion gens, but I'd rather use the multi-blocks. But this one's EV, this one's IV. I can't really burn this at this point anyway. So this is actually going to be a side project, even though normally this is like your main goal. What I'm really after here is all the different hydrocarbons from cracking the byproducts. You got a lot of them. You got benzene, naphthalene, ethylbenzene, dimethylbenzene, methane, phenol, creosote. There's a lot of stuff. Now, the one thing I know for hog is that octane is a big deal and is usually the bottleneck in the process of making hog. So I will probably be optimizing for making as much octane as possible, which generally means lightly hydrocracked light fuel. And that seems to be the case here as well. You get 5 times as much for lightly hydrocracking the light fuel compared to severely hydrocracking the light fuel. So I'll be doing that. Anyway, this is going to be very prone to clogging, so I am going to be avoiding overflow on basically everything because I don't want anything to clog. And I've done hog before in GTNH, and over there, my god, the whole system clogged so much, so I am absolutely going to avoid that here. I'm also at some point going to make the advanced circuit assembler, and also now that I have sheldonite, I can get platinum for the SMD diodes, so I'm going to do that as well. Besides that, I mean, I guess I can progress this way and make the industrial barrel, but there's not that much left to do before hitting EV, and EV Plus is pretty subject to change, so I don't know, maybe I'll just start making titanium and maybe nichrome coils, and then I don't know how I'm gonna fill the time. Probably with a lot of building, I don't know. Check out my brand new EBF, pretty cool, right? Nah, this is just a quad pyro. I decided to put it up on its side because then it has an odd by odd footprint, which normally is something I don't care about, but it makes sharing the stuff a lot easier because I am quad sharing the energy hatch because I can. It uses less than half an amp of the base voltage, so I can quad share the energy hatch, and it will use about 2 amps of the voltage, so it's going to use about 2 amps of HV for this. I also have 2 trash cans here because I didn't realize this until now, but multi-blocks in this version of GregTech don't have the ability to void outputs. So if there's no space, it just won't run, and there's no way to toggle the ability to void outputs. So I just have my output buses here facing trash cans directly, because this recipe makes some ash, which I don't really care for. Up on the top is where the input bus goes. This is where I will be supplying my dark oak logs, and also the LV output hatches. I need to bring like a whole P2P connection over here and set up AE2 and stuff. I got a lot to do, but I kind of have a vision for this place. I'm gonna put all my distillation towers in the middle, and there's gonna be a lot of them. There's gonna be at least 4 quads, I think. And to help with that, I have started batching a lot of stainless steel. I have 3,000 stainless steel in storage right now, and I would like to make much more. Especially because if I set up nichrome, I get my first heat-based overclock for aluminium and stainless steel. What does that mean? So the electric blast furnace conditionally has perfect overclocks, and what that means is for every 1800 Kelvin above the recipe temperature, one overclock that I supply to the EBF turns into a perfect overclock. So if I'm 3600 Kelvin over the recipe, I get 2 perfect overclocks instead of 2 regular overclocks. This does of course mean I need to overclock the machine in the first place, so it's not just a free boost, I still do need to provide enough power to do an overclock. It's just that that overclock will become a perfect one instead of an imperfect one. Another more subtle thing, I guess, is that if I provided 2 overclocks, let's say I have an MV recipe and I'm running it at EV, but I only have the heat to turn one of those overclocks perfect, then only one gets turned perfect. So instead of doing 4 times the speed for 16 times the power, I will be doing 8 times the speed for 16 times the power. And if I get even more heat and I can make both overclocks perfect, then it's 16 times the speed for 16 times the power. Definitely worth investing in better coils. The thing is, nichrome coils require borosilicate glass. Also need stainless, nichrome, and aluminium, which is all not an issue at all. Nichrome is just an EV blast, and nichrome dust is an MV mixer recipe with nickel and chromium. As for borosilicate glass, it's just boron plus glass. Glass is obviously trivial. Boron, I don't know if I have any boron. And I think the only way for me to get it is from borax. And borax is a byproduct of rock salt processing, so this could become kind of expensive. I'm wondering now, maybe instead of oil I should do ore processing. Nah, I'll just batch everything. I'll be fine. So I currently have 4 EBFs. I'm going to upgrade the coils to nichrome. I may as well upgrade coils all around the base to nichrome while I'm at it. But yeah, just 4 EBFs for now. Let's make that 64. Light work for a guy like me. This took me 2 days. This is a pretty cool invention of mine. I think I've managed to parallelize all of them without using P2Ps, without using toggle buses, and only using interfaces. We'll give it a test in a second, but I think it works. So I guess I'll explain it first. This is gonna be a bit difficult to explain. So obviously there are 16 quad EBFs here. Everything is connected to power. They're all running at 4 amps of HV. Power is coming in from underneath. There's a whole array of energy converters because 16 amp HV is the highest it goes. There's no 64 or anything, but that's fine. So this is powering everything. That's pretty straightforward. Everything is wired. That's it. Now there are 4 channels here, or 4, I shouldn't call them channels. There are 4 lanes of dense covered cables here. The 2 blue ones serve the same purpose on both sides. They stock nitrogen in the input hatch. All of the input hatches, by the way, are set to program circuit 2, and they also receive output from the output buses. Every single one of these is configured exactly the same way, so I'm just going to look at this quad EBF, but every single one is configured identically. And by the way, if you do want to do this, you can use the memory card to quickly copy and paste configurations from one component to the other. So that's how I've set this up. It was actually pretty quick to do. I just had to set it up once by hand and then just copy paste it everywhere. Anyway, the blue lane provides nitrogen to the input hatch and receives outputs. The orange and red lanes also serve the same purpose as each other, but they are kind of offset on purpose because of something called priority rotation, which I will come back to. First, let me talk about the AE2 setup. So the red components, there are mega interfaces here, and I have all of these different dusts being stocked, and there's 2 of them because this is double shared. If this was a quad shared input, it would be 4. But this stocks all of these dusts, and these are the dusts that I have patterns for. Well, they're the inputs to these patterns. So the dusts come in through the patterns, they're stored in this partitioned cell, and then they're stocked into these interfaces, and the input buses auto-pull, so they automatically pull the dust into the bus. That happens everywhere. The red is one batch of dusts, the orange is another, and crucially, the order here from left to right is red, orange, red, orange. It's kind of anti-symmetric on purpose. and that is because of hatch priority rotation. And what that means is if you look at any multi-block in the game, they check their hatches in a specific order, and it doesn't really matter what the order is. So for the sake of argument, let's say that this EBF checks its hatches like this. It checks this, then this, then this, then here, 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 and then here. And then it also does the next layer and the next layer. When it finds a recipe, it will immediately start crafting it. So in this case, it's going to find any dust that's in this input bus first, before moving on to the orange ones. On the other side, it's the opposite. These EBFs are going to see the orange one before the red one. And what that means is when I do a complex craft that needs multiple things smelted as part of its recipe tree, some stuff is going to go into this bus, some stuff is going to go into this bus. And on these two, the red stuff is going to get smelted first, and on these two, the orange stuff is going to get smelted first. Because recipes don't have a fixed time, it varies between recipe, what's going to happen is whichever pair is doing the faster recipe will finish all of the faster recipe first, and then move on to the slower recipe. So that way, things further along in the crafting chain are not backed up by waiting for all the reds to finish before it can get access to the much faster crafted orange stuff. The orange stuff is being crafted at the same time as the red stuff. So all of the fast crafted stuff will be done quickly, and it'll be moved on to other auto crafting around the base. And this should make things a lot faster. And finally, all of the outputs, this is partitioned, right? So it can't go here. The only place it can go is into this storage bus, which is unfiltered, which leads back into the main net. This storage bus is to source nitrogen. So it's a bit more effort to set up a pattern here because I have to repartition the cell to add the new pattern. I need to reapply the stock into the interface. So it's a bit annoying, but in IV, I get access to the stocking input bus, which will automatically pull stuff from storage. So I won't need to do this filtering stuff, and the parallelization will be a lot more reliable. But for now, I've basically accomplished the same thing in HV, which I think is pretty cool. You could do this in MV maybe, but you wouldn't have the larger interfaces. You could only do one row of stuff, but you could do this in MV. Okay, let's test it out. Let's craft 512 stainless steel. Slowly, everything should come on. I'm being limited by how fast the items are going into the storage cell. That's kind of funny. This means I should probably increase the pattern size so that it pushes everything at once, and then everything should come online. Also, my frame rate has gone down. I think the smoke has a pretty big effect. But cool. I'm pretty happy to say that it works, even though not everything is on. I think that's just a result of the pattern size being too small. But I'll set up another batch just to show the full thing going. Damn it, I'm out of power. Fuck, I forgot about that. Oh, wait, no, I'm not out of power. I just don't have the throughput. Okay, I need to beef up these redstone flux cells. But I also don't have enough power. This does not make enough to keep those blast furnaces going. Also, my frame rate is really taking a hit from this. This was maybe a bad idea. I probably should get rid of these particles. How do we do that? I don't know. Surely you didn't think I was just gonna leave it undecorated, did you? I did leave the top open, or the middle open, because I will have to go in here to do things every now and then, so I didn't want to completely block it off. But maybe eventually I'll close it off. This looks pretty cool, with the exposed coils. I kind of like it a lot. Some final notes. I actually have 68 blast furnaces. I left these 4 because the new setup is strictly on program circuit 2. So every other recipe is going to be done in this quad. And also, this recipe, the monocrystalline silicon bulls one, is also done in the quad because there are 2 inputs here, 2 item inputs. And I just didn't want to think about how that affects the setup, so I just didn't move it. So there's a couple of recipes still here. There may be more in the future. But a more pressing concern is the vacuum freezer. I have 2 of them, and I have 64 blast furnaces. Well, 68. I don't think this is going to be able to keep up. That sounds like another mega project for next time. However, it's going to happen so much faster because now I have a perfect overclock on the aluminium blast. So all the aluminium for the frostproof casings is going to come in so fast. This is probably not even that big of a project, actually. I feel like making the energy hatches is going to take longer. Oh, and the controller. Oh yeah, this needs EV circuits. I also kind of didn't really work on oil today, which was the original plan. I guess I'll do that next time. I don't really have enough time left in this episode to do the whole thing. I think it would run a little bit too long. So instead, I'm gonna make the HV circuit assembler, and I'm also gonna make the first mainframes. Hey, let's see how fast I can blast 384 aluminium. And done. That's pretty good. Considering I'm in HV, here's the circuit assembler. This goes right here. Probably just gonna get rid of this old one, the MV one. And cool. Here's the whole micro line. Microchip processor, microprocessor assembly, microprocessor supercomputer, and microprocessor mainframe. You can tell they're all the same tier because they're all named micro. The next tier is all nano, and then, well, I guess pico, but quantum, and then crystal, wetware, runic wetware, draconic wetware, awakened draconic wetware. Some of this might change, but cool, that's exciting. And it looks like the mainframe is totally craftable. The only thing I'm missing is some annealed copper wire, which is not an issue at all. Mainframe done. This is an IV tier circuit, but I don't really have a use for it yet because I don't have titanium. And I'm pretty sure basically everything that uses mainframes or microprocessor mainframes is EV and above. Mostly, if not everything. And that needs titanium, which I can do. I think that's kind of the last thing I want to do. And once I do that and everything else that's possible in HV, I don't know. I guess I'm just waiting at that point, but that's fine. I don't mind waiting. I can always build, I guess. Maybe I should do a building stream. Should I do a building stream? I should probably do a building stream. So next time I'm gonna get everything prepped for for oil refining. I kind of just placed one machine and that's all I did today. Today was supposed to be the oil episode, but it ended up being the EBF episode. At some point, I'll also make 1 billion vacuum freezers. We'll see. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will actually set up oil for real this time. Any leftover time will be spent refactoring and expanding the passive chemicals area to use multi-blocks. Is the 64 EBF array overkill? Let me know in the comments. It doesn't mean I'm going to change anything. See you next time.